Super Mario, a series renowned for having the highest quality standard in gaming. Mario's been just about perfect over his 40-year run, but there's definitely been some weirder chapters that Nintendo'd like you to forget. Today, we're exposing those. Here's 10 moments across the Mario series that genuinely had me saying, what the f***? We're gonna start with some of the more tame stuff and progressively get more and more unhinged. So disclaimer, we're gonna be covering some pretty inappropriate and sensitive topics, so if you're easily offended by that kind of thing, go watch the video up in the card and I'll see you next week. Let's do it. Number 10, Mario Dance Dance. This has got to be the most obscure game to ever put Mario on the cover. We've gotten some oddballs over the years, like Mario is Missing and NBA Street, but this is on an all different level. The concept is goofy, and it's weird as f*** to see Konami as a developer, but all of that'd be fine if there was actually some effort put in. This is quite possibly the laziest game in the Mario series. They reused all the assets from Mario Party 6 and built the game in the exact same engine, which makes this basically a glorified Mario Party bonus mode, and these models were never intended to dance like this. You could blame that on the hardware, but the GameCube's capable of some pretty great visuals. Just look at Super Mario Sunshine or Mario Strikers. When effort's put in, it's noticeable. They didn't put any in. The movements look like the cheapest video game animation that money can buy. I've seen low-budget licensed games with better motion, and for a game focused on dancing and sick moves, it just doesn't work. And the whole idea of character running around world beating levels through dance just doesn't fit Mario. He's typically a happy guy, but this looks so off for him. When I first saw gameplay of this as a kid and found out it was a real thing, I genuinely said, what the f***? Then I had to put soap in my mouth. Number 9, Feline Fanatics. When Mario 3D World came out, it was at a time where Nintendo really needed a fresh-feeling Mario game. The Wii U was failing, and the 3DS was barely doing better, and they needed their top-selling IP to make a big splash to justify a console purchase. Instead, they released a successor to their handheld 3D Mario game and added cats. They screwed over their entire next-gen console with a single trailer that showed their upcoming revolutionary game to just be another Mario. The only thing you could really call unique was the focus on cats, the new Super Bell power-up that lets you climb up walls and dive bomb enemies, oh, and Bowser turning into Meowser. I gotta buy a Wii U! Said literally nobody. This is one of Nintendo's grandest f***ups, and they won't let us forget about it either. In 2021, when they ported Super Mario 3D World to the Switch, they included the bonus game Bowser's Fury, which took the affinity with cats to an all-too unhealthy level. Every single creature in this world is a cat. The architecture, shaped like a cat. The main collectibles, cat shines. I don't know if I missed something as a Mario fan, but since when did Nintendo become so obsessed with working these things into their mascots' games? At first it was kinda lame, but now it's just fucking weird. Number 8, Mario and the CDI. Nintendo has very rarely licensed their precious IPs out to other companies to make games, and that's probably because the one time they did, we got the Wand of Gamelon and Hotel Mario. These games are notorious for their awful gameplay and hilariously bad cutscenes.
When you pinch Wendy's pennies, they pinch back.
That in itself is enough to make it on this list, but I want to highlight what Nintendo did to Sony leading up to this moment as the true number 8. So, in the early 90s, Nintendo and Sony were working together on a brand new disc-based hardware, dubbed the Nintendo PlayStation. But amid some doubts Nintendo had about Sony's true intentions behind joining the games industry, they decided to beat them to the punch and backstab them first. At the Summer Consumer Electronics Show in 1991, they were ready to unveil their latest piece of gaming tech, and the day after Sony announced their partnered project with Nintendo announced at their conference that they'd be ditching Sony and working with Philips on their CD-based hardware instead. And that was the first time Sony would hear of this. As publicly humiliating as that was, it inspired them to go on and outsell almost every Nintendo console after that, while Nintendo created some of the biggest stains to their beloved Mario and Zelda brands. Number 7, Mario and Bowser's relationship. As gaming's most iconic hero and villain pair, and the amount of times he's kidnapped his princess, you'd think these two actually hate each other, or at least wouldn't be emotionally supporting each other. But that's exactly what happens at the end of Super Mario Odyssey. Bowser kidnaps and tries to marry Peach, but after Mario thwarts his plans and the three escape a crumbling arena, Mario and Bowser are both forcing their love for Peach onto her, and after she hushes them and storms off, which is weird in the first place, the two are distraught, and Mario tries to comfort Bowser, placing a sympathetic hand on the back of his shell and trying to make everything seem okay. Now, it's hard enough to explain them partying and go-kart racing, but in an actual mainline game, to see this kind of camaraderie toward each other just doesn't make any sense. Number 6, Mario the Psychopath. Funny thing is, his relationship with Bowser is actually one of his healthier ones, because the way he treats his other pals is not always the best, and sometimes straight abusive. There's a super old game theory video that covers this a lot deeper, but basically, Mario's not a very good guy, and he hurts just about everyone he quote-unquote cares about. His brother Luigi, who perpetually lives in his shadow, finally gets a moment of his own spotlight, and Mario mocks him and steps on his shoes, degrading him back to his place. And there's examples of that kind of thing throughout the series, but it all started way back in his origins with Donkey Kong. After the ape steals his girl in the first one, he kidnaps him for the sequel and locks him in a cage while he whips him and forces his underage son that's still in diapers to scale dangerous girders as he shocks and tries to kill him. Textbook animal abuse in Mario's OG series. And then there's the iconic case of Yoshi beatings. You can defend the guy all you want, but the evidence is there. All of his so-called friends are mere victims of this mustachioed madman. Number 5, Mario's love life. Despite having toxic friendships and brotherships, he's always had a way with the ladies, and pulls better than any other guy in the Mushroom Kingdom. Luigi may have aura, and Waluigi might actually be the Rizzler, but Mario gets bitches. His first love interest was Pauline back in Donkey Kong. And sure, there's the whole theory that this Mario isn't the same as this Mario, and that may be true, but she's also in the Mario vs. Donkey Kong games as the main damsel in distress. And this Mario has to be the same as our typical Mario, and they've clearly got some kind of romantic relationship. But then, where does that leave Peach? I always thought that Pauline was his ex, and he was 100% loyal to Peach, but both of these games came out in 2006, and he's involved with both of them, so what's up?
Mario's a cheater.
But you could argue, oh, they're not together, they're just friends.
Oh, Mario.
That doesn't sound friendly. Fine, even if it was, how do you explain Daisy? In the first Mario Land game, it may seem like Mario's just doing a good deed and saving another land's princess, but at the end, they get pretty intimate. That heart was intentional, and no one just calls someone's name out like that, come on. But after that one instance, them having a relationship is never mentioned again, and he's back to wanting some Peach. So he has a one-night stand with her and passes his sloppy seconds down to his inferior brother Luigi. Kinda messed up when you put it together like that. Number 4, Magic Shrooms. In 10th grade, I took a health class, and when we were learning about different drugs and why they're bad, one of the flashcards mentioned that hallucinogenic mushrooms were last illegalized in where else but Japan, and that happened in 2002. That always struck me as really off as a Mario fan, considering the game was made in Japan prior to 2002 and features mushrooms giving our hero superpowers. You know, I always wonder how these wildly talented developers come up with such innovative ideas, but what if it was all just because they were inspired by the things they were seeing while tripping balls on mushrooms? Now, I don't want to point any fingers, but I do find it kind of weird that not long after 2002 is when the plumbers started to get a lot more generic with his releases. New Super Mario Bros. Came out in 2005, and the GameCube generation is considered to be the last with really good Mario spin-offs, and most of those were at least in their planning phases prior to this mushroom ban. I get that it sounds kind of silly, and it might be a stretch, but it's definitely something to think about. Number 3, the Super Show pilot. The Super Mario Bros. Super Show is a pretty big what the f moment, but I want to highlight the first episode specifically because it got away with way too much shit. The plot is actually pretty straightforward for the series. Toad gets kidnapped by Birdo, who can fly now, and Mario, Luigi, and Peach try to save him. Now, I don't want to be too suggestive with this, but even when I was a little kid, I thought this looked weird as f. So, Birdo confuses Toad with its missing baby and is kissing him a bunch with a weird trunk thing while it salivates on his head. And they chose to make the saliva white. Then they cut to this angle, and I can't freaking do it. This is weird. And then Bowser makes his minions perform Dan Schneider acts, which seem normal when you grew up watching iCarly, but it ain't right. And then Toad takes off his head to use as a parachute and creates one of the biggest discrepancies in the Mario series. Is it a hat or part of his head? And do I even need to talk about the live action part? What the f***? Number 2, Peach's question mark. Continuing with the weird erotic themes from the previous one, Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. One of the best Mario games ever made. I've never played it. As the first Mario role-playing game though, it gives us a way more in-depth look at these characters than we ever had up until this point. So they had a lot of creative freedom to really establish these icons as actual characters, with dreams and flaws and sex toys. What? The innocent Princess Peach. Mario decides to invade her bedroom, and instead of a typical
Panty raid,
he looks behind a throne and finds her question mark. Then is quickly interrupted and scolded by Peach, who seems a little embarrassed, so it's most likely something inappropriate. And the funny thing is, Nintendo doubled down on this in the remake and left it in the game, which was pretty ballsy. Still, this game is rated E for everyone. Come on guys, what are we doing? And number 1, Luigi unalives himself. This topic isn't a very easy one to cover. Mental health is a serious issue, and it's important to keep yours in check, which is why I partnered with today's video sponsor, BetterHelp. No, I'm just playing. Luigi's Mansion has a much darker tone than most Mario games. It takes place in a haunted mansion, obviously, so it's got ghosts, creepy old furniture, and a definitely sinister mad scientist. But the most unsettling thing occurs during the power outage. Luigi walks into a room with an old school phone ringing on the table and decides to pick it up. It's not a very eventful call, but if you stay on the phone long enough, lightning will strike just outside the window to cast Luigi's shadow onto the wall. He's not on the ground. His feet are dangling and he's not moving. It's almost like he killed himself. Now, a lot of people write this off as a glitch. I mean, it's a GameCube launch title, it's gonna have some bugs, but I don't think it was. Every other lightning strike brings with it a perfectly normal shadow, including the ones in that same room, so it can't be a glitch. Right? Either way though, this is dark for a Mario game, and spawned so many creepypastas and theories that scared the shit out of me as a kid. Thanks for the nightmares, Nintendo. But there you have it, my top 10 what the f Mario moments. If you have some different ones, definitely drop a comment and share with me. I really want to hear about some of the ones I missed, and it's honestly super interesting to look at some of the very few f-ups this near perfect series has endured. So let her rip, and thank you so much for watching.